back on June the 14th. But we started receiving more questions in the office, and we had residents to come to an event, and they had questions. And so I thought it would be best for us to actually just host another meeting so that you can have your questions answered directly from CenterPoint Energy representatives. And then we've also asked our Houston Fire Chief, Chief Pena, and his team to join us as well, because I want to make sure that you understand what is proposed and happening in our community, and that you can have all of your questions answered today. We will be recording this session. So in the future, if someone was unavailable to attend the meeting, we will have a recording of the meeting that we could share with them. What's going to happen today is I'm going to ask our CenterPoint representatives to introduce themselves and go ahead and make their presentation. And then we will open the floor for questions. If you are on your computer, you can either raise your hand or put your question in the chat, and then I will recognize you as we go through the questions today. And if you can just let us know if your question is for CenterPoint or for our fire chief, Chief Pena. Chief Pena, I think before we open up for questions, I'll allow you to make any comments that you may have after the presentation as well.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Council Member.
All right. So Justin, if you want to go ahead and get your presentation up and introduce anyone else that's here from CenterPoint, we're ready to go ahead and get started.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. My name is Justin Cotton. I'm an engineer for CenterPoint Energy. Joined by me today is my counterpart, Andrew Rockwell, who is the manager over peak shaving for CenterPoint Energy, based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. As Vice Mayor Pro Tem was saying, we did give this presentation last month to a few of you, so this may be a repeat for those who were able to attend the board meeting in June. What we'll go over today is just an overview of what these facilities are, including how CenterPoint chose to decide to build these facilities in the Houston area, how they function, and then we'll go over some construction pictures of previous sites that we've built over the last couple of years. So like I said, we'll start off with some background and applications, why we chose peak shaving, specifically a propane air peak shaving facility, and what that is here in the Houston area. So for CenterPoint Energy, as we plan for the natural gas division for supplying natural gas for all of our customers, we base that off of a pipeline reservation. So as you go through every winter and every summer, obviously in the summers we don't need a lot of gas usage here, and the winters that depends by how severe the winter can be. As you can imagine, this past winter with the winter storm we had in February, that was definitely a peak demand, versus what you're seeing here is some other examples of other winter seasons that did not reach those similar peaks. So over the last 11 years, the Houston system has seen 5 peak days like you're seeing below. So you can see in the 2013 to 2014 winter and the 2016 to 2017 winter, those are what we would consider peaks historically. So as our natural gas supply and planning group prepares for every winter, we have to make sure that we have enough gas to supply to our customers, whether we reach those peaks or not. So what you're seeing, this this boxy line graph here going across, is we obviously reserve more in the winter, less in the summer, but we have to prepare every year to meet that peak demand, whether we end up using it or not. And so what we're showing here is where we get the name peak shaving. So on your left, this is a daily demand graph of natural gas, and without peak shaving, we are using third-party pipelines to reserve that gas every year. Whereas what we're showing on the right is the alternative to be used with peak shaving. So what we're doing is quite literally shaving the peak off the top of this graph by taking a couple of those extreme peak demand days, the coldest days of the year, and we are utilizing a peak shaving facility, so a internal CenterPoint owned facility that does not rely upon third-party pipelines to supply us for natural gas service. And what that does is that reduces our capacity that we're reserving from third-party pipelines. And what that does, it does a couple things for CenterPoint and for our customers. So we are creating an independence from our third-party pipelines. We are no longer as dependent, and that helps us offset costs for pipeline transportation, physical natural gas supply, and gas pipeline storage. So this is it helps us increase our reliability for our system because it gives us a more diverse portfolio to be able to supply the energy that our customers need in a peak demand day, which, like I said, for natural gas would be the coldest days of the year. So here's a little timeline, how we've come through the Houston projects for peak shaving with CenterPoint. So back in 2018, we started acquiring land and completing designs for these facilities. It's a total of 5 facilities as we go through here. We did it in 2 phases. Our phase 1 had 3 facilities that were completed between 2018 and the end of last year. And then we had a phase 2 with 2 more facilities, like I said, to reach a total of 5 facilities in the greater Houston area. And 4 of those are completed as of the end of last year, 2020. And our 5th and final facility is the one that we're talking about here today, which is planned to be completed by the end of 2021. And then all 5 of these facilities will be able to be utilized within CenterPoint's gas supply winter plan starting this year. Here's a map overview. Like I said, these are spread across the greater Houston area. We've got, as far as the jurisdictions that we are within, we have our Bluebonnet Point Reserve facility is in the northeast side of the area. It's up in New Caney and Montgomery County. Our Oak Point Reserve and Magnolia Point Reserve facilities are within Harris County. And then our Pecan Point Reserve and Lantana Point Reserve, which is the one that we're talking about today, are within the city limits, obviously also within Harris County there as well. So now I'll go through design, how these facilities work, the basics, and what kind of equipment is included in these facilities to make them function properly. So this is a quick schematic, a layout that shows roughly how these facilities work. So what we have here is we start with our fuel transfer station. So we have trucks that come in, 18-wheeler trucks that carry liquid propane. They will come in and hook up to a fuel transfer station, and then they will transfer that propane liquid into our liquid propane storage tanks. And you'll see pictures of each of these parts as we go through here. And so that's the long-term storage in our storage tanks on site. At the time that we, CenterPoint deems that it's time to use these facilities, like I said, in the coldest days of the year, then we will start our production process. So what we'll do is we use various pumps or compressors to move our product, the liquid propane, into what we call a vaporizer, which is essentially just a heat exchanger that transfers the liquid propane into a gas state so that it can it travels as a gas state. At the same time, we're taking air from the atmosphere and compressing it to the proper pressures to meet our natural gas distribution pipeline system. Those two products, the propane gas and the air, go into a propane air blender or a mixer, and then those get sent out into our existing natural gas distribution system. So these act very similar to any point of transfer that we have with a third-party pipeline, in the sense that this is this is essentially a storage facility. We are using propane and air as a mixture to supplement the natural gas, and then it injects into our currently existing natural gas distribution system. So it goes to all of our current existing customers, and the means with which we mix the propane air and the natural gas keeps it at a proper mixture, so that it still burns and acts normally to any of your appliances in your home, be it your stove, your water heater, or anything like that. So like I said, I'll go through some pictures of examples of what we have here. So what we're seeing here is the final version of our propane tanks. So these are mounded tanks is what we call them. So essentially our tanks, which you'll see a picture of them exposed here in a little bit. We set down those tanks and then we build a dirt mound on top of them. That is a very large safety factor for us that prevents any fire or heat from getting directly to the tanks, which would be the main reason for any failure of the storage tank by an increase of pressure. So that greatly reduces our risks as far as anything happening to the tanks for an overpressure situation like that. So other things you're seeing here are valves and instrumentation. We have both manual and digital gauges going through, so that these are being recorded and monitored remotely. Like I said, we have our fuel transfer station, which is where we have our 18-wheeler truck. So here's an example of an 18-wheeler truck coming in and delivering propane to our system. Again, we have multiple controls here as well, emergency shutdown systems that you would see around the facility, and other various safety aspects to this process here. So for air compressors, like I said, we were taking in ambient air from the atmosphere and pressurizing it to meet the pressures of our natural gas system, so that our product flows in line with the natural gas. Here's a picture of some of the compressors at the facility that we completed last year. This is what you would see inside of the control building, what we call our controller compressor building, which you can see from this image here. So on the left here, this is mid-construction of our facility in New Caney. On the left, this is our control and compressor building. Again, here's a larger example of our storage tanks being mounted. So that's, like I said, the storage tanks are under this dirt mound here. You have a couple of equipment skids here. So we have our pressurization skid, which is how we move product from one part of the plant to the other. Then we have this green box here is our vaporizer. That's where we turn the propane from liquid to vapor, to a gas. And then here is where we have our mixer or blending skid. And then what you can see is, like I said, during construction, this is the pipeline that goes into the natural gas system and back out to our customers. So we'll kind of go into a little bit closer picture here. So like I said, this is our pump and vapor compressor skid. You have pumps here, compressors here, and like I said, this is our way of moving product from one part of the plant to the other, so that when we're moving product from a tank to the vaporizer for it to go into our system, or if we're moving product from one tank to another, this is the equipment that's utilized for that. And then here we have our propane air mixer. So we have our top line here is where we have our propane vapor coming in, going from right to left. And then on the bottom, we have our pressurized air coming in from right to left. Those two meet at this junction here on the left side of your screen. And then they go back into this middle pipe going left to right. And then that is what gets sent out into our natural gas distribution system. So here's some pictures of construction as we've gone through. Most of these are from our facility that we installed last year on the north side of town at our Oak facility. So these are the tanks that I was referring to. So these are 92-foot long tanks, so 92 feet in length, 11 feet in diameter, 60,000 gallons each that they store of liquid propane. And again, these will be covered, as you'll see in other photos, but they get covered with dirt again to protect them from any sort of fire impingement or overpressure situation due to heat or any direct damage from any flying debris or anything of that nature. So as we continue with the tank install, the top left photo here is as we're building the mound around the tanks. This middle section is as we're installing piping and the instrumentation as well in this picture on your right. And like I said, installing the piping and instrumentation for moving product in and out of the tanks after our tank mound has been completed. Again, we have our air compressor and control building. So this is as it's being built. Simple block building with doors and a roll-up gate. But what you're seeing here on the right is our air compressors being moved into the building during construction. And then here's during construction of the fuel transfer station. This guardrail is to protect any traffic, be it the 18-wheelers or any other vehicles that are on site from running into the fuel transfer station to protect that area, as that is an area that needs protection to make sure that we don't hit any valves or instrumentation or any pipes or anything like that while we're doing the fuel transfer function. And then here's a aerial photo of a completed facility. So this is our Pecan Point Reserve facility, which is within District K, as some of you might know, off of Alum Road and Hiram Clark. And this was completed in 2018. So this is an aerial photo from earlier this year of the completed facility. As I said, and showed in previous slides, we have our fuel transfer station here. We have our tanks under this mound with all of our tank instrumentation on top. We have our pressurization skid, our mixing skid, and our vaporizer here on the outside. And then again, our control and compressor building on the right here. So that completes my presentation. Again, I'd like to say that this facility that we're building out on Hillcroft that we're meeting about today is our fifth of these facilities in the Houston area. We've been working with the county, the Harris County and Montgomery County, with the city of Houston as well as the city of New Caney on completing all these facilities around the greater Houston area. We've been working with the Railroad Commission, who is the regulator over our facilities, and that we haven't received any complaints of once these facilities have been installed. We have not received any emergency response or required any emergency response to these facilities since they've been in place since 2019 throughout the city and in multiple jurisdictions. So we are building our new facility to these same standards and the ones set out by meeting or exceeding the ones set out by the Railroad Commission and other regulating groups. And I guess I'll open the floor for any other questions or comments.
Thank you, Justin, for that presentation. Chief Pena, if you would like to make any comments now, I'd like for, if you could, just kind of talk about these types of facilities and what the City of Houston's Fire Department would be able to, how will they be inspected, or any other information that you'd like to add, we'll do that now.
Okay, thank you, council member, and thanks to everybody that's on this meeting. I want to first mention that I have my Assistant Chief of Emergency Operations, Chief Meir, on the call. We also have District Chief Colburn. He's our hazmat coordinator, along with Captain Bear Wilson, who's they're both technical experts on hazmat, and they're on the call as well, and we'll be able to provide some information as far as the safety track record that we've seen and what we do in preparation for these types of facilities. But what I can mention is that in my recollection, we haven't had any really safety issues with these facilities, either as they're built or once they have become once they're in place. They are heavily regulated, that not just by the fire department of the city of Houston in terms of inspections or in terms of familiarization, but certainly by other agencies, state and federal agencies. And so we feel comfortable that the oversight in the build of these facilities is stringent. For our purposes, we do more of a familiarization. Once these facilities are built, we don't do, our job is not to go out there and inspect, again, because the regulations from the state and the federal level are stringent enough that they're actually at a higher level than what we would be able to provide here locally, which should be encouraging, I guess, for information for you all. Our purpose is to familiarize ourselves with the facilities, what the products are contained, what they handle, to be able to draft a sort of a pre-plan for any contingencies that may occur, and that's really what we do. Again, I'm going to turn this over to Chief Colburn and Captain Wilson to speak a little bit more about what specifics they would be looking for when in these facilities. But from the regulating aspect, we are just one of many agencies that has oversight over these types of facilities, and we feel comfortable that they're proceeding in the proper way. So with that, council member, if you'd allow me, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Colburn. Again, he's our hazardous materials chief, very well versed, very sharp individual as far as the hazmat aspect goes, and he'll be able to provide additional information.
Sure.
Good morning, all. My name's Terry Colburn. I'm the, as Chief Pena said, the district chief over the hazardous materials response team. And looking at these facilities, I guess the best thing that we have going for us is our current relationship with CenterPoint Energy. Your hazardous materials team works with CenterPoint almost on a daily basis on gas leaks and other incidents around the city. So we have current up-to-date contacts with their management in place already. We've already spoke with Justin on these types of facilities. Our teams are going through these facilities. He's been open about showing us how they function, how they're regulated, how they're monitored. They have monitors on there to let them know if there's any type of incident going on, if there's any leaks or anything going on. They'll know when it happens. They know how to contact us. They know how to get us out there, and we know how to work together to mitigate these types of incidents. And like I said, our teams will be going through all these facilities, getting our response plans together, as Chief Pena said, making sure we're familiar in how to mitigate all types of emergencies going forward. Other than that, does anyone have any questions?
So I'm looking at the chat. The first question I see is, where are the homes and the churches? The maps that Justin put up were maps of the facility on Alum and some of their other facilities. It wasn't necessarily a map of the area, but the peak shaving facility is located at the corner of Hillcroft, and the nearest cross section is West Orem. So if you see where the fence is there, that's where the facility is being put up. I see Mr. Kenneth Burgess has his hand up. Mr. Burgess, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Okay, my name is Kenneth Burgess. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm a survivor of 3 explosions that I had at my plant. I don't know if anybody remember 1989 when we had when there was an explosion in Pasadena. Well, what my biggest concern here is that you know, a lot of the incidents happen, you know, when people get careless in doing their jobs out here. Now we've had the explosions I've seen happen in our industry happen due to human error. Something is missed, and in the event, you know, lives are lost. We lost 23 lives in 1989. Now, if you can sit here and tell me that you can guarantee that this facility is going to be safe, I don't think you can. I don't think you can tell me that it's going to be a safe facility here. And I don't see how we can put a facility like this close to neighborhoods. And we already have one facility over on Hiram Clark. That's I mean, the capacity that we have over there is enough to take out the community if there is an event. So how can you sit here and tell me that you what is your near miss rate at Centerport? Have you had any near miss? I've seen even after we became a star plant, we still have near misses. Near misses are things that something that could have occurred if it hadn't been for somebody. There was one situation where an experienced person took upon himself to open up some fire monitors, some waters around the area to keep gas that escaped out of pipes. If it wasn't for his one act to open up those water monitors to saturate the ground, we could have had another incident there. So my concern is, how are you going to prevent things like this from happening?
Chief Coburn, did you want to answer that question? I mean, I'm not familiar with what happened in 1989. Was that the same type of facility here? We definitely want to give credence to Mr. Burgess's concerns.
Right. It would be hard for me to answer that for Centerpoint, but I believe, and just in looking at it from the Houston Fire Department, he is right. Most of these come from human error. I believe that's why, as you've seen that facility, a lot of it is automated. They've also took protective measures in covering the tanks, trying to minimize what could possibly happen as far as from human error. But I believe that might be a question for Justin on what Centerpoint's actually doing to
Mitigate that.
mitigate
Justin, did you
Yeah.
want to add anything to Mr. Burgess's concerns?
Yes. So to Mr. Colburn's point, yes, we do have multiple aspects, excuse me, aspects that speak to the safety of these facilities. We have fire monitoring, flame detection, gas detection, and overpressure protection on all aspects of this facility, all parts of this facility, including smoke detection within the building and fire pull stations with fire extinguishers at all exits. These are just a few examples that we have of personnel and production safety, and facility safety things that we utilize on site. To speak to our history, I forgot to mention this in our presentation, but Centerpoint as a company has been operating facilities very similar to this since the late 1940s. So we have extensive experience with these facilities. This is not a new technology, although it is new to Texas. These are the first propane air peak shaving facilities built in the state of Texas. But like I said, this is not a new technology. So the industry standards are long-winded and with have a lot of experience behind them. CenterPoint's experience, we have not had any injuries or fatalities from any of these facilities. I cannot speak to the 70 plus years of timeline as far as near misses. That is information that I'm sure I could find out, but I do not know it off the top of my head. But I do know we have not had any injuries, fatalities, loss of property, or anything like that in our history of operating these facilities within CenterPoint's jurisdiction.
So what warnings will we get if that chemical get out of the pipes? What kind of warning signs would the people in the neighborhood expect if you have a loss of chemicals out of that tank?
So there are throughout the facility, if there is a gas detection or a flame detection throughout the facility, there is an audible alarm that will go off that is mainly put in for anybody who is operating within the facility so that they are aware that something is going on. It is not inherently for any surrounding properties. However, being close enough and the alarms being audible enough, you may hear them depending on how close you live to the facility. That would be one sign.
Some of my neighbors are right, it's in their backyard.
Understood. Yes, sir. So that is one way. And then as far as any other leak, if there is something substantial that we are concerned for the safety of anybody outside of our property. So like you said, the neighbors next door, or any other properties that are around the facility, we would have a dispatch just the same as we would for any natural gas leak in a home or any natural gas leak in a buried pipeline underground. That's what Mr. Colburn was referring to with our relationship with between CenterPoint and HFD, and our storied history with responding to incidents like that. He may be able to speak better to what they would respond if they were notified from us, but that would be our next step. If we are concerned about any exposure outside of our facility, anything that is not able to be contained within our property, then we would be reaching out to HFD and the hazmat team to mount a response appropriate to the incident.
Hey,
Justin,
Justin,
if I may, council member, Justin, I think Mr. Burgess has a valid concern, but if you would just speak a little bit more about the monitoring and the detection that happens at these facilities, because it is 24/7, and there is a vested interest in certainly CenterPoint and the community to ensure that low pressures, high pressures, all those items are monitored, and we take appropriate steps ahead of time before it becomes an emergency. So I think speaking a little bit about the monitoring and the thresholds that you have, the safety thresholds that you have set for taking any affirmative action on any alarm that may be detected.
Yeah, absolutely. So for our gas detection, we have gas detectors throughout the facility set both for propane gas and natural gas, and monitoring the explosive limits of both. There are for every alarm, we have a low alarm, which will provide a warning that we are not within the explosive limit, but that there is a sustainable leak being detected. And then we have a high alarm above that, which I believe is at a 25% explosive limit. I'm not 100% on that number.
that's correct. That's correct, Justin.
All right, thank you, Andrew. So our high alarm would be at 25%, of explosive limit. And now for any alarm, be it low or high, that is an automatic shutdown for our facility.
Yeah.
Anything that is out of normal standards to our operation will cause a systematic shutdown of our facility from top to bottom. So
Right. Justin, and if I may, just to put it in layman's terms, so we can all understand, when you say that it's the alarms are set at a certain percentage of the lower or upper explosive limits, that just means, and if we can expand a little bit more on that, that just means that the alarm is set to sound off at a percentage that is a quarter of what it would take, of what the amount of product it would take to be a hazard, an explosive hazard. So I think that's important for you to communicate, in that when the alarm sounds, that doesn't mean that you're in the explosive limits or in the hazard limits. It means that it's at a small percentage of what it would take before the hazard becomes dangerous. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yes.
Justin, this is Andrew. I'll also mention that the code is 25%, but we do it at 12% initially. So we're actually above code. That's one of the beyond code measures we take.
Right. So to that point, to go into further detail, that lower alarm, the first alarm that we would hear is to Andrew's point, is at 12% of the lower explosive limit. So 12% of the amount, as Chief Pena mentioned, that it would take for it to be a hazardous environment or an explosive environment. And then our facility will shut down at that reading, even at 12% of that limit. And then again, we have a secondary alarm at 25%, and then so that we know anything above that, we have the proper response to that. Similar to any of those gas detection shutdowns, the same applies to flame detection. So we have infrared flame detectors that view across the entire facility within the fence line, anywhere that we have product or anywhere that product can be. We've had experiences of somebody across the street more than 250 feet away from the furthest fence line of the facility decides to light a campfire. Our sensors can see it and will put the facility in shutdown mode. So these are very robust and very sensitive safety measurements that we have. And then to Chief Pena's comment about monitoring, so these facilities are monitored by the Gas Control Center, which is in downtown Houston. This is the same gas control center that monitors the entirety of our natural gas distribution system in the greater Houston area, and for the entire state of Texas as well. But that is a 24/7 monitored facility, and they have access to see any alarms at any level that go off in our facility, even if whether it's a gas detection or flame detection. If the facility has an emergency shutdown from anybody operating the facility, there are manual emergency shutdown buttons throughout the facility that put the facility in a systematic shutdown in case of an emergency. Our gas control can see that and respond accordingly as well. And then for any smoke detection that happens within the building, or if anyone pulls a fire pull station like you see in any other public building that's located at any of our exits from the control and compressor building, those will automatically dial out to 911, as those are personnel safety, and those are things that could be going off in the event that someone is incapable of calling 911 on their own. Centerpoint protocol outside of any of these detections is that if there is anything related to flame or fire, that Centerpoint personnel call 911, even if they're already being automatically notified by some other monitoring system that is part of our operational standards, that anything related to fire that we call 911 immediately. And again, if there was in the event of a gas leak, be it propane or natural gas, as both are contained within this facility, or can be contained within the facility, if any of that is to go outside of the facility, or if we have reached, like I said, any sort of 25% of our lower explosive limit, if we feel we are approaching a hazardous area, that again, we would also be calling 911 and specifically getting in touch with the hazmat team to properly do any evacuations that may be needed, or anything else, or any other preparations or response necessary based on the incident.
Okay, Mr. Zachary, I see you have your hand up. If you can unmute and ask your question. It says Zachary Guest. Is that Mr. Zachary? Can you unmute? We see you.
Oh, okay. How you doing? My name is Zachary Pettit. I'm highly upset because we had no information on this facility.
Mr. Zachary, I think you may be on two different devices. And
We have not.
you may be on two different devices.
Okay. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. It won't let me. This is what I get. It won't let me. I'm trying to understand.
You might want to place his question in the chat pod, Vice Mayor Pro Tem. I think he's got two different devices on, and that feedback is causing the interference. You're on mute. You're on mute, Vice Mayor Pro Tem.
If you put your question in the chat, Mr. Zachary, or hang up your line, we'll come back to you. Let's go to Christine Willie. We have Christine Willie with a question. Christine Willie, if you'll unmute, we're ready for your question.
Excuse me, could I say something, please?
How about that? Is that better?
I can hear you now, Miss Willie. Mr. Burgess, we'll come back to you, Mr. Burgess. We'll let you speak just a second.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Christine Willie. I'm a resident on River Bluff. While the discussion and the information regarding the safety of the facility is admirable, I couldn't help but feel an increased level of anxiety listening to the measures, because we're having a hazmat discussion in a neighborhood that I've called home for more or nearly 30 years. So my question relates to, it's probably a historical question, more directed towards the Center Point folks, to know what factors were used in determining the locations of the facility throughout the city. I would like to know if the other locations are similarly populated with residents, and just to have some level of comfort in comparing our location, or the selection of this location, to the other 6 or 5 that are around the area. Thank you.
Justin, do you want to take that question? Dee Dee, I don't know if it'll be helpful, or if we go back to the slide with the map.
Sure, I can pull that up while I give this response. So yes, as far as selection of these facilities, they are, the two factors that go into them are, one is available land. That is a key factor within the city of Houston. It's something we have a hard time coming across. But they also, the second factor, and more importantly, is that we have enough customers that we are serving by these facilities. So I have the map pulled up again for those of you who can see my screen here. And yes, our facilities are in a multitude of areas. Our Bluebonnet facility in New Caney is within a neighborhood area. Our Magnolia Point Reserve facility is out in the Cypress Katy area, which is constantly growing. We are not as close to homes in that location, but there are neighborhoods nearby and homeowners within 500 feet, just as we're notified for this facility as part of the Railroad Commission requirements. And then our Oak Point Reserve is on the north side of Houston, is the only one that doesn't have homes nearby, but it is very near a shopping area and other industry areas. So there's trucking in and out nearby. There's restaurants, retail stores like a Best Buy and things like that within close proximity of these facilities. So these facilities exist within diverse areas as far as retail versus residential versus industrial and things like that. And historically, I can speak to Minnesota. Again, these facilities in the Minneapolis area have been installed for many years. They have facilities within their downtown area where they're putting multi-story condominiums across the street from and things like that. They and have had either homes or businesses established around these facilities for many years. Again, like I said, since the late 1940s, early 1950s, that we've been operating these facilities in various both urban and suburban areas within major cities. So to reiterate, the focus on selecting these facilities is mainly that we have enough customers that we are serving by doing this. Again, our goal is to supplement the natural gas system and the supply that we are buying from third-party pipelines. For every unit of gas that we are not buying from a third-party pipeline, that is saving our customers money. Our gas does. CenterPoint Energy does not make money as a regulated utility, does not make money on the gas that we sell. So whatever we pay for the gas for CenterPoint to deliver it to you is what is paid by our customers. So the less that we have to reserve every year or every winter is money saved for our customers. And so to make these facilities effective, they have to be within areas that have a high demand of natural gas usage. So that's why they are prominently either in residential or commercial areas where you have sufficient demand for a natural gas system.
Ms. Willie, did that answer your question?
I'm trying to find my unmute button. It did. Thank you.
Okay, the next person with a hand up is Ray Thompson. Ray Thompson, if you'll unmute. Mr. Thompson, are you on the line?
I'm sorry, her name is Ray Thompson.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ray Thompson.
She'll probably unmute, but Zach did post his question in the chat.
Okay. Mr. Freddie Chapel Wright, if you'll unmute, we'll go to Mr. Freddie Chapel Wright.
That's Miss Freddie Chapel Wright.
Okay, Miss Freddie Chapel Wright, I apologize. We're ready for your question.
Yeah, I'm on Summit Ridge Court, and I listened to his presentation, and I was just wondering, when did the residents have input into the selection of this site? Did you just haphazardly? I know you did some research into looking for a site, but why this location? That is my question.
Yeah, so to go back to what I was partially speaking of earlier. So like I said, as CenterPoint reviewed locations within our natural gas distribution system that had a sufficient amount of demand to justify building one of these facilities, again, land available and nearby existing CenterPoint natural gas assets was a main factor, second to having enough demand in the area. So we evaluated these areas starting in 2018. Like I said, when we started this project, this land specifically was bought in 2019, if I remember correctly. And for this purpose, and then we started construction on it this year. So as far as when residents had input into these into building these facilities, as far as there was no notification as far as purchase of the facility, but as we go through our regulatory body with the Railroad Commission of Texas, anybody who is a real property owner within 500 feet of these storage tanks was sent a letter, as well as all of the plans and documentations as to what this facility is, how much fuel it will store, and other information as well. So with that, there was a response period that the Railroad Commission has set forth as a standard for any facility of this size that is being proposed. They then have a certain amount of days and allow to hear from residents or property owners within that 500 feet, as I mentioned, and then the Railroad Commission evaluates independently of CenterPoint any of those comments or complaints or concerns that come into them. And they include those within their evaluation of this facility if it is deemed appropriate to start construction. There may be some, I know residents in our previous meeting commented on the difference between starting the construction on site before the Railroad Commission approval. And I would just like to point out the difference between what is a city permitted construction and what is approved construction by the Railroad Commission. So any movement of dirt or building of foundations or pouring of concrete, those are all things that are within our construction permits within the city of Houston. And then anything actually with the installation or connection of any pipe or of a storage tank or anything like that is what is regulated by the Railroad Commission. We received permission and approved permits from the city of Houston in June to start pouring foundations and things like that, and start our formal construction. And then we received approval from the Railroad Commission for installation of storage tanks, piping and instrumentation just last week. So mid-July. So like I said, as far as customer notification, the only formal notification is anybody within 500, anybody who owns property within 500 feet of the storage tanks as deemed by the Railroad Commission, with amount of time for them to respond with any comments or concerns. And then they take that into consideration before giving us an approval to start that construction.
So all the other entities superseded the complaints?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand your question, Ms. Freddie. Can you say it
Well,
again?
He didn't say how many complaints that he received.
Oh, okay.
So I guess all the other entities superseded the complaints.
Do you know if there were any complaints to the Railroad Commission? I know the reason we found out about it was because one of the residents who lives within the 500 feet sent the letter from the Railroad Commission and Centerpoint to our office. And that's how we found out about it and how we started hosting the first meeting and did the tour of the site on Alum. Unfortunately, when the Railroad Commission sent the notice to those 20, there was 28 homes that actually received the notice. And then one of those residents sent the notice to our office. And we reached out to our Centerpoint contacts and asked for more information. So the Railroad Commission, which is a state entity,
Right.
they oversee these facilities, and their requirement is that a letter go to homes within 500 feet of the facility. This is on another note, but I personally think that, you know, the neighborhood should have received notice, the council office should have received notice. I mean, there should be a wider span, but that's something we'd have to deal with the state. And I have written that down, that as the next legislative session, as something that we need to petition the state to look at if we are putting facilities near neighborhoods. Is 500 feet adequate?
Right.
Because I think people at a minimum should have notice.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Chappell. I appreciate your comments. The next person is Mr. Anthony Arbuckle. Mr. Arbuckle, if you will unmute. Mr. Arbuckle, are you on the line?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Okay, ma'am. Anthony Arbuckle. Good morning, everybody. I'm on River Bluff. If I stand on River Bluff and Orem, I can see that facility. And I hadn't heard nothing about this until I got a flyer on the door this week. I didn't see any sign about any variances with all of those. Was that done right, or how does it work?
So the Railroad Commission is required to send a notice. We got a copy of the notice that they sent to 28 homes. It was the 7,000 block of River Bluff, the 7100 block of Hillcroft, and then I think 13311 Dunhill, and maybe a few locations on West Orem. So the requirements that are outlined by the state is if you live 500 feet from the facility, you were to receive a notice. And those notices, Justin, I don't know when those notices went out, but we got a letter from a constituent in District K at the end of May.
Yeah, so those letters went out, if I remember correctly, was May 21st was when those letters were sent out to property owners within, and just, I like to reiterate, those are any property within 500 feet of the storage tanks. So that is not necessarily 500 feet from Centerpoint's property line, but specifically from the storage tanks themselves.
Okay.
And so who determines the 28? I'm sorry. Mr. Cotton, are you speaking?
Oh, ma'am, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Cotton.
Arbo. The letter I received on the door is what brought my attention to it. It says meeting number 2. I never seen meeting number 1. And I did get something in the mail, and it basically looked like junk mail. So people received the letter properly, but no one paid attention to it. And this is kind of serious. No,
I totally agree, Mr. Arbuckle, and that's why I had my hot team to put a notice on everyone's door so that you can know about the meeting and find out about the actual facility. Because when it was brought to our attention, only 28 homes were sent the notices. I felt like more people needed to know about it because we started getting calls about it, and I need to know about it. And that's why we had the first meeting. And then we found out that a lot of people didn't know about the first meeting. I am asking everyone on the call, if you don't receive our District K newsletter, to please sign up for our newsletter. We sent it out in the newsletter several times about the meeting. Once we found out about it, to let residents know. And then I'm going to ask, if you aren't receiving our newsletter, that you email us so we can get you on our distribution list. So when we do have meetings, if you missed it in the mail or you didn't get it on your door, at least you can get it in your email. We try to send this out as soon as we get it, and try to schedule meeting number 2 as quickly as possible, because we knew that residents still had questions.
Okay, there's Fondren Elementary School within the area of this facility. I mean, it's inconsiderate. I don't understand.
And I,
So
I think, okay, go ahead, Justin.
if I may, I do know that within the Railroad Commission's safety rules and regulations that oversee these facilities, that they do take into consideration, like I said, the notification that's required is anything within 500 feet. However, they do take into consideration places of mass gathering, be that a church or a school or office buildings and things like that. Those are within their considerations and within the Railroad Commission's ability to not approve a facility for installation if they deem that there are places like that nearby. But again, as far as their rules, it's within 500 feet. That written notice along with information about the facility is required to be sent out. But all aspects of the area within which these facilities are being proposed or constructed take in all of those other factors as well. Can't speak it to any more detail than that. I would have to reach out to the Railroad Commission for any more detail than that.
Thank you. The next person that has their hand up, it just says David. David, if you want to unmute, we're ready for your comment now. David?
Yes, hi. This is Sandra and David Stennis, and we're here on Broken Bridge. So I do have a question. Since they said that the notifications went out to individuals who live within 500 feet, based on the information that you get from the Railroad Commission, I'd like to know exactly how many of these facilities they have placed around the city, particularly in areas like River Oaks, West University, those types of neighborhoods. How often does Centerpoint put those types of facilities in neighborhoods that the city of Houston considers are affluent neighborhoods? And if you could give me that data, we would certainly appreciate it. And it would help us to better understand how this particular location was assigned this facility. I'll mute myself so that he can answer.
Sure. So I can speak to that. To a point I made previously, a main factor is that there's land available to build any of these facilities. We need a minimum of 5 acres to be able to construct any of these facilities, to provide for proper setbacks from other property, or have the proper spacing for our equipment that runs within the facility, as well as proper drainage and detention, which is a huge factor within the city of Houston, as we all know, to prevent any further flooding or to interrupt the current drainage system in any part of the city within which we were building. So to answer your question directly, no, we do not have any facilities that would be considered within an affluent area or a densely populated neighborhood, such as, like you mentioned, West University or River Oaks. And that is mainly due to the fact that there is no land available in those areas. We don't have a congruent 5 acres to be able to build. That's why you don't see any of our facilities within the 610 loop, because frankly, there isn't enough room anywhere or land purchasable to be able to build in those areas. To speak, as I mentioned before, we have a mixture of these facilities, of the types of areas that they are built within, and what residents or businesses surround them. Like I said, it's a mixture of homes, commercial and industrial within each of these facilities. But I can say 4 out of the 5 facilities that we've put in included at least 2 or 3 homes, so residential homes within the 500 feet. They're just like the example here with this facility off of Hillcroft. I understand that there's a lot more that maybe are 505 or 510 feet away. I do understand that, but only one facility that we've installed was in a completely industrial / commercial area, and there were no residents within the 500-foot area. So most of these facilities, a large percentage of these facilities, are within areas that include residential homes.
Okay, I think.
I just had the second part of my question would be, based on the history of storage facilities and leaking into the ground and the groundwater, is CenterPoint prepared to pay individuals in this neighborhood for property value loss based on having this facility and the potential for leaks in our neighborhood?
Vice Mayor Pro Tem, I know this is something that we discussed when we met on site. And so if you'd like to, I'll speak to it briefly if you'd like to add more information. The facility that we installed, our Pecan Point Reserve facility that's on Alum and Hiram Clark, was completed, started construction in 2018, completed in 2019. And from what I am aware of, property values have not changed in that area. There's since been a growth of townhomes being built across the intersection from that facility. Home sales, to my understanding, have not dropped by any means. They are the same or higher in property value than they were when the facility was constructed. That is about as much as I can speak to property value changes.
So, and the facility he's referencing is the one on Alum and Hiram Clark. If you ride down Hiram Clark catty corner to this facility, there's a new townhome construction being built there. And the least expensive townhome right now on HAR is $340,000. So I don't know what the impact would be in your neighborhood. I will tell you, just because I do have a residential real estate license, that any homes under 250,000 in the city of Houston anywhere right now are selling in less than 2 weeks because of the market. I don't know what the long-term effect will be, but as far as property value, we've seen property value increase at the area near Alum and Hiram Clark. But Justin, there was another point to her question that I'm curious about. She said, she talked about the potential for a leak in the, did you say in the water, or any type of a water leak? Is there a potential for this gas to get in the water?
So to my understanding, there would not, as this is, these tanks are not buried underground. They are buried at grade with dirt put over them. I believe what you may be referring to is historically like gas station tanks that are installed underground that over time leak and things like that, which then would could potentially go into groundwater and things like that. Historically, because none of these tanks are buried underground, CenterPoint has not had any issues with any leaks environmentally, be it something seeping into the groundwater or anything like that. We have not had any of those issues historically within CenterPoint. And I can say that both our internal environmental standards as well as state and federal environmental standards, we are required and have received permitting and approval for these facilities. And that is evaluated on an ongoing basis as regulations change. These facilities are on an ongoing list of evaluations for what kind of chemicals they store, how much they hold, where they're located, the means with which they are stored, as in what kind of storage tank, is it above ground, underground, those kind of things. Those are ongoing evaluations that our environmental department keeps a check on, both at the state and federal level. So I can say that CenterPoint has not had any instances of that, to my knowledge, and that we are constantly evaluating the environmental impact of these facilities, both be it underground or air pollution or anything like that.
Yeah, Justin, it's Andrew. I'll just mention that up in Minnesota, we've got over 186 tanks of this type that have been in service anywhere from 1949 to 2017 and have never had a failure or issue on the tank itself.
Okay, we got a couple questions in the chat. Let me see. Not everyone has email. We got a few more hands up. Mr. Burgess, we're back around to you. If you want to unmute, Mr. Burgess.
Okay. First, I want to reply that there's a few people on the phones that has questions out there. One person is Daryl Colbert, but there's a lot of people. There's a lot of questions out there, and people are not able to get in and get their question in. So, how the people that's on the phone that have questions, what should they do in order to get their question in?
So after you finish, I'll ask if anyone has a question that's on the phone, and they can unmute using *6, and we'll take their questions. Thank you for helping Mr. Colbert.
All right. And one thing, another question I have is, what would a major leak of liquid propane look like if something went wrong and we had a major leak out there? It's like in '89, before the explosion occurred, I saw a cloud go up before a ball of fire proceeded after it. So what would the propylene liquid propane look like if you had a major leak? What would it look like? I know propane stays low to the ground, so if you had a major leak of propane, what would anybody in the area need to look for? Would you see a cloud along the ground, moving along the ground, trying to find a source?
So to answer your question, yes. So propane is heavier than air. While we do store it at a liquid at atmospheric pressure, so not contained under any pressure within a tank or anything like that, propane is naturally a gas. So you will not see a pool of liquid propane or anything like that in the atmosphere, traveling along by any means. So this would be in a gaseous state. As you said, it's heavier than air, so it's going to lay low to the ground, unlike natural gas, which is lighter than air and will vent up into the atmosphere. So as far as things about propane, it can hang in low-lying ditches or detention ponds or anything like that, is where it will pool. Just like our natural gas is odorized, our propane is odorized. To a trained nose, they smell slightly different, but it's essentially the same rotten egg smell that you are familiar with natural gas. Our propane smells the same. It is something that is naturally odorless, but we do add odorant to it so that it is detectable by the nose. It is colorless, so you will not see a cloud. If there's a large pool of it, the most you'll see is vapor waves, like looking at hot concrete in the summer, is the most that you would see. But it is naturally colorless, so you will not see a cloud by any means, or anything like that. It is non-toxic. So it is not toxic to inhale it. However, it is an asphyxiant in the way that it replaces oxygen in the air. So if you are in a large accumulation of propane, then you may have less oxygen in the area for you to breathe in, but it is not toxic to the human body in any other way other than that it removes oxygen or replaces oxygen in the air around you. So as far as being able to detect it, that is why we have ample gas detection throughout the facility at low and high levels for any heavy gases and light gases. But as far as seeing it, there's no way to see it specifically, but smelling it would be the number one indication of having a propane or natural gas leak.
Thank you, Justin. I see a lady with her hand up, but the name only has an R, and we haven't heard from you. If you want to unmute, it doesn't have an entire name. The only thing I see on the screen is the letter R.
Yes. Can you hear me,
We can hear
Ms.
you now.
Tatum?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Ray Thompson. Sorry, I couldn't get unmuted when you called me. This facility I'm on River Bluff. It's right in my backyard. How many times or how often will these 18-wheelers be loading this propane in this facility? And when will it be completed? Because I'm not able to even sleep in my bedroom from the noise from the construction from this facility. And also, will there be a wall, some type of wall dividing my backyard to this facility? Because it is right in my backyard, because I'm on River Bluff.
So I can speak to those. So our construction schedule has us completing it in December. As far as a wall of any sort, though, we do not have one planned for install. There will be a fence on our end that will be separate from your backyard fence. And as far as 18-wheelers coming in and out, so these facilities are projected to be used every 3 to 5 years, as that's when we see peak demand coming in. So this year, as we complete the facility, so somewhere in the December of this year to January of next year, we'll have a lot of propane trucks, 18-wheelers coming in to load. But once the facility is loaded, we will only need to bring trucks in at most one time a year, 1 week a year, I should say, to fill the facility up. It's not something where we have an ongoing truck stop, people coming in and out. The facility is very quiet once we're done with construction. I do apologize for the construction noise. I know there's a lot of heavy equipment out there right now, and that they try to work long hours to avoid the heat, especially early in the morning. But once this facility is completed, it's very quiet. Like I said, a lot of these systems are automated, so they do not require someone on site on a regular basis. So you will not have a lot of traffic in and out, especially not 18-wheelers. Like I said, maybe 1 or 2 weeks a year that you'll see propane trucks coming in to this facility after our initial installation. And then at most you might hear a generator or something running on our facility, which we try to keep from being too close to the fence line. We did take into consideration the amount of residential neighbors that we have and move as much of our facility close to Hillcroft versus next to the back of the homes as much as we could, and that we've tried to do our best to move all those things away. But no, we will not be building a wall of any sort. We will have our own fence that will be separate from your backyard fence, and 18-wheelers will come in and out on a rare occasion, and And at most, you'll see activity from CenterPoint employees a few times a month.
So
Is
you're
that complete question?
saying it's going to be late December before they finish?
That's correct. We have substantial completion for the facility by mid-December. So early December, we'll be finishing up. Heavy equipment will probably be out of there by late October, November timeframe, pending we don't have any weather events that delay our schedule further. And as of today, our schedule is to be complete with all construction activities, and the facility is operational before the end of December this year.
That completes your question?
And there's an area between where you say the fence for your facility and my fence. Are they going to clear that grassy area between those two? My backyard and that fence that you're talking about, the facility is going to have?
Yeah, there will be some middle ground there that is between the two fences. Yes, we will. That will be part of. We have regularly scheduled landscaping that goes on at these facilities. So when they come out to tend, while that is still CenterPoint's property, they will maintain that. So we will prevent any overgrowth from happening between those two fences. But there will be open space between those two fences.
Because right now it's really built up, and when will that be cleared?
I don't have an exact time. By the time the facility is complete, we will have a full clearing of the facility, and they will reseed the grass. Places that were grass before will be grass again after construction is completed. So I can say for sure by December it'll be that way, but we can make an effort. I'll take a note and make an effort to get that area of overgrowth taken care of in the meantime, so that it doesn't continue to grow between now and the end of the year. I know we've had a lot of rain, and that promotes a lot of overgrowth.
Because
Okay.
it gets really wet in that area back there.
Justin, if you could just have them take a look at that area, and if there's something they can do now to get that in better condition, that will be helpful for those residents that back up to the facility.
Absolutely.
Mr. Colbert on the phone, if you can push *6, we are ready for your question. Mr. Colbert?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Well, as a resident here for over 25 years, the gentleman keeps talking, that these letters were sent to people that were 500 feet, I guess, from the facility. So you're saying, and just knowing if you got HFD online and their hazmat team and these people, let's establish this, residents. This is a bad deal. This is really a bad deal for residents, because if they have these people online that their job is, when an incident of something like this happens and they call out hazmat, it's normally not good. And my question is also
Mr. Colbert, Mr. Colbert, let me add something to your comment. I definitely understand how that seems, but I do want to tell you that I asked Chief Pena to join because I thought that would be helpful, but I'm finding out that probably maybe wasn't helpful. I thought that would be able to maybe allow for some questions to our local authority. These facilities are actually regulated from the state, but I wanted to have some local hazmat and fire presence on the line for additional assurances. So I hope that doesn't take the anxiety to a higher level because I did ask them to join, but I definitely understand your concern because the last peak shaving facility is not far from my mother's house, and then I live in Brays Oaks, which is not far from Hillcroft and West Orem. So I understand what you're saying.
Well, Ms. Tatum, that's exactly right. In the aspect of talking about it, no. I mean, these people don't know if a hazmat incident happens, what are the processes, what goes on. They don't know. So I understand what you're saying. But they should be very, very alarmed, because if there's a hazmat incident possibly in this area for that, this gentleman saying they sent letters out to people 500 feet away. So are you saying, sir, that an incident, if it does happen, we can be guaranteed that it's only going to be within that 500 feet and no further?
I cannot say that with 100% assurance. I can
Absolutely,
tell you that
you can.
I can tell you that within the regulations by the Railroad Commission, I know that's not an answer you want to hear, but we are meeting and exceeding all requirements that they have from the Railroad Commission, and as well as these are evaluated by the Department of Homeland Security under the Chemical Facility Anti-Terrorism Standards. So there's a lot of people at a state and federal level that are looking at these facilities. As the gentleman from HFD mentioned, we have a working relationship between CenterPoint and HFD. We are working to make sure that they have all the information they need so that their firemen can respond appropriately and protect our residents. And so we are doing everything that we can. I can tell you that we've mitigated a lot of risk by mounting these tanks. Having them exposed is a very different scenario versus having them covered. It eliminates a very, very high percentage of risk with these facilities. Go ahead, I'm sorry. My final thought, or my final word, was just going to be that, like I said, I can't speak exactly to what an incident would look like because every incident is different. We have done hazard safety analysis of these facilities, both the ones that exist in Minneapolis, that the design is based off of, as well as doing a new one for these designs as they are the first in Texas. And all of those factors have been considered. A main reason why I can't tell you exactly what would happen is because we haven't had it happen before. And I hope that gives you some confidence in the fact that we've been running facilities like this for 75 or more years without incident. I hope that gives you more comfort.
It gives me no confidence, sir, because the aspect of it is no one knows when Mr. Burgess first talked about human error, when normally, and I know you're saying a lot of this thing, there would be automatic, it would be automatic, it won't be humans that'll be running this. But sir, just in a nutshell, why is it that the mayor's office was not notified in order to notify residents? This went straight, the Railroad Commission made this decision without notifying residents, and to where we can actually have a say-so in this. How do you just put a facility in a residential? Well, I know how you did it, but how is that able to be done like that? And Mayor Pro Tem, I have a question. Is there anything that the mayor's office can do to help us as the residents of Southwest Crossing with this, that this facility can be stopped and not built?
Well, I will tell you that we sent a letter to the Railroad Commission when we found out about it. Unfortunately, Texas is a property rights state. CenterPoint owns the property. The city does not have zoning. So there are a number of factors that right now don't lend itself for us the jurisdiction to say, CenterPoint, you can't build you can't build that facility there. I mean, it's not the answer I want to give you, but based on the laws in Texas and who oversees these facilities, and the decisions that can be made with private property, that's why we're here. And I will tell you that I'm not happy about it. I wish it wasn't here. Unfortunately, it is going to be built, I do think that, Justin and Centerpoint has made an offer for residents to visit the facility on Allen and Hiram Clark. I know that the neighbors near that facility did have an opportunity to tour that facility, so they can actually see it operational. Justin, I'm going to assume that that offer still stands, because I think explaining it to people and seeing it gives a different perspective. It did for me. I understand your frustrations. I want to do whatever I can to try to make this as seamless and as harmless and as palatable as we can, as we have to dwell together.
Well, one thing I can say is residents, with them having the Houston Fire Department and their hazmat team on this call, they can't say what's going to happen. They're going to come in to after it happens, and if it's bad enough to where it causes a real incident in our neighborhood, there's going to be a lot of lives lost, and that's the problem. That, let's be honest with you. No, you don't know. You're saying how you guys have done this and built these different places over 40 years, but it's just a fact that, sir, you don't know what's going to happen. And having the Houston Fire Department, I'll go ahead and say, I'm a retired fireman after 20-something years, and I'm going to be honest with you. This is not a good deal to be in a neighborhood. I don't care what anyone says. And for a fact, sir, if it was your neighborhood, you would have a problem with it. This is a job for you, sir.
Okay, thank you for your comments. We had a question in the chat. Oh shoot, let me go back to it. From Christine Willie. It said, since the tanks will be filled with 60,000 gallons of propane and that material stored until used, how much seepage occurs in those filled tanks, and where does the seepage go? How is seepage monitored?
So I can answer that. So we do not have any seepage or any leaks that occur. Any leak or anything that would be occurring is out of our operational standards. I can say the ones that we've been operating in Texas, just to keep it within Houston, the ones we've been running since 2019, we have not had any leaks on any of those facilities. That is monitored by our gas detection. As I said, with storing of propane, again, these are not underground, so these are not things that come in contact with groundwater or runoff or anything like that. So any leaks that happen would be in a gas state, similar to our previously existing natural gas pipelines that are buried throughout the city. So we have not had any rates. The way it would be monitored is by our gas detection. And as far as how much occurs, the answer is ideally zero if there are no issues with the facility. But no seepage would be happening, or leaks would be happening underground. Those would be above ground, because all connections are made above ground. There's no connections with the propane that are buried underground. So any leak at a connection point or anything like that would be happening above ground, where we have gas monitoring, so that we would be knowing if that was happening.
If there's somebody else on the phone line that has a question, if you'll push *6 now, we'll open it up for people that are on the phone that can't put their question in the chat. If you are on the phone, go ahead.
Hi, this is Cynthia Roming. I wanted to know, do you guys own the Centerpoint facility at the corner of Wood River and Hillcross? That little gas place right there?
I believe so. I'm not exactly familiar. While we're talking here, I can pull it up, but I believe you're talking about one of our city gate stations where we
Right.
transferred gas from.
If you did, then you were bad neighbors, because just recently you've always had like bad fences with the with the slate hanging down and didn't really take care of that property. So I really don't know how you're gonna maintain this one any better than you maintain that one that you've had for years. My second comment is we live at the end of Harris County, Houston, Texas. And so we have a lot of land around here. Is there another facility that we're not really paying attention to? If you know that's on the record to be bought up by CenterPoint to put another one of these little facilities in or anything similar?
I can tell you that my department is the only one that manages any facilities like this, and we do not have anything planned for Houston, Harris County, or any of the surrounding areas for at least the next 3 years.
3 years.
Yes, that's as far as we don't have anything planned for the future right now. That may change, but as of today, I can tell you we don't have anything planned.
Is there another question? Was that all of your questions, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's another question from the phone, we can take that now.
My name is Woody Mays. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Ms. Mays.
Okay, I'm the one that sent the letter to the council person about this facility because I had been wondering for a couple of months what was going on back there, because I even called the city to find out what was being put up, because this facility is right in my backyard. I can walk out of my gate and touch their fence and the facility too. And my concern is like what the gentleman said. There's always a first time for a disaster. And I couldn't figure out why the entire subdivision wasn't notified about this, because if there's an explosion, it's going to affect everyone. And also, I wasn't satisfied with the Railroad Commission because CenterPoint knew they were going to put this up, and we should have been notified before they even cleared the land. So if you're going to clear the land, you know you're going to put this up whether we protest or not. And I sent my protest letter to the Railroad Commission and got a reply back that I didn't tell them how it was going to affect my health. So I realized this was a waste of time, that it was a done deal. No matter what we said, they were still going to put this facility in a neighborhood. And I thought about going to the news media to have this investigated, because this thing is too close. We got Exxon, Valera, and in fact, the facility is right behind Exxon. So if there's a leak or an explosion, this whole subdivision area is going to be blown up. And I've researched about propane gas, and they say they're going to put 300,000 gallons back here in the neighborhood. And my understanding is highly explosive.
Justin, did you want to comment on her
meeting
comments?
we had, when they were talking about maybe building a brick wall, now it looks like they're not going to do that behind the subdivision, behind our area.
Yes, Vice Mayor Pro Tem, I'll comment on that. So as far as the process and the schedule with which we decided to construct this facility, yes, the land was purchased in 2019 with the intention of building this facility. We then applied for permits with the city of Houston at the beginning of the year of 2021, telling them what we were building. What we found out was that while a facility or a site or an address has permits into the city to requesting for permits, until they are approved, the city is not able to see them on their system because they are not approved permits. So when inquiries first started going out, when they saw land being cleared, which was work that is allowed to be done without permits, that once that work started going on, my understanding is residents then reached out to the city, and the city was not fully aware of what was going on at the facility or at the address because that permit had not yet been approved. And while it is still in an approval process, it's not within the system. As time went on, the permits were then approved by the city. And so we continued with construction in anticipation that the Railroad Commission would also approve. We understand that at any point within any of these submittals, whether it's with the city or the county or the state, that CenterPoint could be rejected, and we understand that. We then proceeded to submit to the Railroad Commission, which initiated the information being sent out to residents, and then from there we awaited. Now that we had city approval, we awaited the Railroad Commission approval to continue work, which, like I said, we received last week. As far as an explosion or anything else, all of the facilities, the Railroad Commission has all the information about any other resident, business, gas station, or anything else installed around the facility. They take that into consideration when they make their evaluation on if this is a facility that should be approved or not. The only plan that we have ever put in, and this is within the city of Houston permits, is a security fence that goes around the facility. There is no wall intended to be built around the facility in any manner. We've talked to the Vice Mayor Pro Tem about things that we would like to do as far as beautification, so that you don't just have a big ugly fence up there, that we do something along the roadside there to have the facility not look as industrial as it could. We've talked to them about proper lighting in the area. There's security cameras at this facility, so that we will know if anything's going on in or around the facility. This won't just be another dark corner in the neighborhood. We'll have lights out there, not lights that are going to be shining on your homes or anything like that, but that this isn't going to be a dark place for someone to go hide and or do anything like that. But that is the information that I have, and that's the process of how we got to this place. I do apologize that residents don't feel that they had proper information. We've already had offline discussions with Vice Mayor Pro Tem to ensure that any work that CenterPoint does in the future, whether it's one of these facilities or otherwise, that proper and sufficient notification goes out, and that we keep that relationship and communication open, even outside of what's required at a state or federal level. We understand that. We apologize that that this was sprung on you. We understand that we can do better. So we have plans in the works with Vice Mayor Pro Tem to make sure that that any work in the future that CenterPoint does can be properly communicated ahead of time, so that we avoid these situations.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
That is
Yes, ma'am. My name
full
is
of
Max
crap.
Hawkins. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
And we are one of the first residents in the Southwest Crossings. We've been out here 30-some years, and this is most unwelcome, because I know they would not have done this in River Road, Westview, Tanglewild, or whatever. So I'm wondering, what impact is this going to have on our future health? Are we going to become a cancer center right here? This is very disrespectful. I am very displeased, and I am going to write the governor. So how is it going to impact my health, our health in this neighborhood? Because we have too many variables that we know nothing about.
So this is Justin again, I can speak to the environmental impact and the associated health impact that this would have. Is that it's no different than the natural gas that you already utilize in your homes. It has the same health impact. There's no toxic chemicals being stored here. There's like I said, nothing more dangerous than the natural gas that already exists in our distribution system, buried underground within the neighborhood, going into your homes. It has all the same health risks as what is currently out there, and that center point has been operating for many years.
And you are a medical person, and you can answer this question.
I'm an engineer with knowledge of the chemicals, and I can say that they are comparable chemicals, and that propane is no more dangerous than natural gas.
My question,
From a health perspective.
Are you a medical person?
No, I am not.
So you can't answer that question. You're totally ignorant
My
of what
apologies.
happened. Totally ignorant.
Okay, is there another question on the phone? Thank you for your comments. Is there another question on the phone? If not, we'll go back to Mr. Anthony Arbuckle. I see your hand is raised.
Hello.
Yes.
Mr. Arbuckle, is that your line? You got two devices going?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ma'am, so this meeting today, it's not stopping anything. They're going full speed ahead with what they're doing, correct?
Yes, they did receive their permit from the Railroad Commission.
Okay, you know, they're saying how it's not, how safe it is, but they got, with all the precautions, it spells nothing but danger. Okay, we've kind of gone over that over and over. And the other facilities he named that one of them's close to 2 or 3 homes and that kind of stuff in the industrial parks. And none of them in neighborhoods like this. None of them. And in 2004, there was an explosion about a mile and a half from here. And it was felt in Pasadena. So if something happens at this plant, it's going to destroy this neighborhood, not just 500 feet. And they're saying they don't want to put a wall up. I mean, I'm not understanding. There's nothing we can do.
Justin, do y'all have any? Do y'all put up any walls? Have you put up any walls at any of the facilities in Minneapolis?
No, we have not. It's all standard security fence at the most. There are no hard structured walls or anything like that installed.
Yeah, I'll also mention that our facilities have not. Our facilities in Minnesota have not stopped anybody from building next to us, whether it's a multifamily or new residences. The 500-foot tower across from one of ours, it's not stopping. You know, people are comfortable.
I don't think you can name a subdivision or residence that has built after you were already there.
That's actually not true.
The most that we can speak to are the townhomes that Vice Mayor Pro Tem mentioned that are across from our other facility in District K. That is the newest construction that has been put up around these facilities.
Since 1949, you're speaking of one townhome facility.
No, sir. No, sir. In Houston, I'm speaking in Houston only. In Minneapolis, there's been great change over the last 70 years about what is built around all these facilities. People, residents or industrial, commercial have moved in and out at any rate across 8 different facilities that we have in the greater Minneapolis area.
That's correct. Yeah, some of these were would have been on the outskirts of the suburbs at the time and are now in first ring suburbs, fully built around.
Okay, so I think you're destroying the property value. Nobody is going to want to buy next to this facility. So.
I can reassure you, I'm near one of our facilities in Minneapolis, and my property values are not affected.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's everyone that has their hand up. Is there anyone on the phone that has a question? I think we've gone to about 2.5 hours. If other residents have any other questions, if you'll email those to us. Yes, go ahead.
Mayor, how do we contact you guys? Because this can't be something that as residents that we have to just take lying down. Matters if they've gotten approval of what they've gotten. This is not right. How can we get in touch with you? How can we call another meeting? Residents, we cannot take this lying down. This is ridiculous. And we need to do take whatever recourse, if it's as far as driving to Austin to get something done with this. Because this is ridiculous. And let's establish this. We all brought up about River Oaks, West University. No, this is a minority neighborhood, a black neighborhood. That's why it's so easy to be done, because they didn't think they would get any backlash from it. So Mayor Pro Tem, how can we get in touch with you? There has to be something that we can do to stop this.
So the best thing for you to do, because the people that regulate these facilities is the Railroad Commission. So we can send you the complaint line for the Railroad Commission. Our office is districtk@houstontx.gov. However, we don't have any jurisdiction over the facility. So that's why I'm bringing them to you, so you can have your questions answered. But the people that regulate these facilities are the Texas Railroad Commission. And we do have the information for the Texas Railroad Commission, and we can definitely share that with you.
And let's establish this, guys. It's straight politics. That's all this is. Again, straight politics. I know the guy that's gonna approve this. You know, I donate to his campaign, and we get things done. That's all this is. And again, but to me, I'm not understanding how the city and the mayor's office can't do more with this. I mean, the recourse of giving it to residents, we don't have any. What recourse are we going to be able to have if I do call the railroad commission?
Tell me what you would like for us to do. I mean, if Texas is a private property state.
Man, this is, guys.
I feel you. I totally feel you.
This is not a good deal. Okay, let me ask you this question: how were they able to get things passed through with the city for its permits without us finding out?
They got a permit from the Railroad Commission because they regulate it.
But they had to get a permit from the city too. The guy said they got permits from the city as well. That's why you guys didn't know until the permits were given from the city. How was that able to happen without us knowing, without you guys putting up a stake, knowing this is a neighborhood? This is a neighborhood where people and their families live. How was that able to be done where the city shouldn't step in and say, no, we're not giving permits for this, even though the Railroad Commission did it? But it's politics, guys. It's my next election.
Jim Wright is your Railroad Commissioner, Jim Wright. Remember that name, Jim Wright.
So I'm asking, how was the city able to give a permit after the railroad? They had to get a city permit as well.
Justin, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I can say, I believe I mentioned this before, but if I forgot, I apologize. It is a two-phase. So the facilities that go into permit for the city of Houston include structural foundations, water and drainage, flood control, building codes, things of that nature. And everything outside of that is what we call the process equipment. So that's piping, the storage tanks themselves, and any associated instrumentation. Those are all what gets approved by the Railroad Commission. So the city has information on what this facility is and what is stored there. But as far as their permits, to my understanding, they are not permitting the storage containers or anything like that. That is where we have to go to the Railroad Commission for additional approval. What the city approves is anything related to building codes, fire codes within occupied or unoccupied buildings, ingress and egress to the facility, planning of driveways, drainage, all those kind of things are what the city is permitting.
So you still have to get permits from the city though, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So I guess going back, asking Mayor Pro Tem, when that comes up, knowing that this is a residential neighborhood, there's no one that says anything pertaining to should we do this?
No one did say anything about should we do this because they checked all the boxes, for lack of a better way to explain it. What the permitting department looked for, they met the criteria. And so legally, there was no way to deny the permit because there was nothing that prevented them from getting the permit.
Except a few hundred lives. How about that? You know, how about a few hundred lives that can be affected?
I totally agree with you.
So ma'am, I'm asking, this is my question. What is your suggestion as our council member? What is your suggestion to the homeowners of Southwest Crossing that we can do to attempt to stop? I'm not with that, okay, it's gonna happen just because. No, that doesn't go like that. There is something that can happen. What is your suggestion to the homeowners of Southwest Crossing that we can get something done with this so they can stop this in our neighborhood so our families are not affected by a possible explosion? Because I say again, if you got the Houston Fire Department and their hazmat team on any call, there's a possibility of something happening very bad. Can we agree?
We can agree. There's a possibility of something bad happening, absolutely, at any location on any day. Absolutely, we agree.
So why are we as homeowners have to even be? Why we have to even be put in that situation? That's not that. See, that's when it comes up to where let's do what's right for people rather than let's do what's right for politics and government, city government, state government. This is all about politics. This is all about being able to get something passed because you've given a lot of money to somebody's getting voted in.
Campaign.
It's ridiculous, man.
So I'm going to, I understand your frustration. I'm going to suggest that you share your concerns with the Railroad Commission. You definitely can send your concerns to our office. Dee Dee, I don't know if we can put that in the chat, or we'll send it out in the newsletter, to take your concerns to the Railroad Commission. Unless we change the parameters and the state law of what the Railroad Commission is responsible for doing, I don't know what else we can do, but my suggestion would be to take those concerns to the people that have oversight over the facility.
Okay, my last thing, homeowners, we have to get together. We have to get together soon. If we have to go to the media, no, we need to go to the media. We have to get together soon on this, because if we just let this go, like the guy, you asked the guy where they're going to be, they have the other land that you talked about. Oh, we're not going to build nothing possibly for another 3 years. They're planning something. But if we don't, as homeowners, stand up to this, they're gonna keep bullying you, because that's all they are. They're bullies with a lot of money. That's all they are. And especially they don't think us as majority of black people are gonna stand up to them. This is ridiculous, man. And you guys that are doing this job, man, I don't see how you sleep at night. I don't see how you collect a check knowing that people's lives are possibly being lost by something that you're doing, and you don't really know what's going to happen. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your comments. I don't see any other hands up. If there is anyone else on a phone, you can unmute now. If not,
Hello.
Yes.
Go ahead.
This is Keith Blaze.
Mr. Blaze, go ahead.
So I'm a chemical engineer. I'm process control systems. Worked with instrumentation and safety systems. And I think, Justin, when you said nothing has never happened, so what we're used to seeing, nothing has never happened, and then something happens. And then when something happens, the standards change. So I think you need to do a little bit better explaining, you know, the worst case scenario of, you know, because there has to be a worst case scenario. Myself and Kenneth have worked in these facilities, big oil companies, when things have never happened and then they happen. And I have said in process hazard analysis reviews, because standards have changed because something happened, because the design was not up to par. Things really do go bad when you get comfortable when things never happen. Usually when things happen, it's the experts that have been around for 25 years that become complacent. They don't test the instrumentation. You got to make sure the instrumentation works when there's a scenario when it needs to activate. So I think you need to be a little bit more prepared and explaining to people who are not from your world. You know, you got to put it in. You got to make people feel comfortable. But what you did was really make people feel less comfortable at the end of this meeting. And so that's really all I had to say.
Thank you, Mr. Blaze. Is there anyone else on the phone with a question or a comment?
Hello?
Yes, this is.
Is there anyone else on the phone? Someone tried to unmute?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hello. The railroad has a historical reputation of affecting our community, the communities of color, negatively affecting these communities. They're not taking responsibility for things that have happened back in the 40s and even before that. You spoke of 1940 on a number of occasions, Justin, and so they have not even taken a responsibility for the effects that is causing cancer and cancer clusters currently that are affecting people for generations, medical concerns, deaths, continuously. We don't want that to happen at Southwest Crossing. We don't want that to happen anywhere. However, there's got to be something that can be done. And Mr. Colbert, you are absolutely correct. We've got to stand up. The Railroad Commission has permitted this, and we have got to amass the strength in numbers. We've got to go forward to discuss with the Railroad Commission stopping this thing. It's not done yet. It has been started, but there are things that we can do to stop it. We have tremendous uncomfortability for our residents in Southwest Crossing. And Justin, your advance apology is unacceptable. On purpose, the railroad ran this end around this thing on purpose just to let those few residents know because of this very single thing that's happening right now, because we are going to rise up and we have to, we must, we've got to now let people know that it's not okay to affect our community. They did not do due diligence in alerting us as to the effects of this, and there has to be some type of meeting that we need to have. Vice Mayor Pro Tem, just like you guys put the notes on the doors, maybe you can put the notes on who we can contact at the Railroad Commission, because that we will see that on the door. It's important. We've got to move forward to make this thing stop. You spoke in terms of people who would be affected by it. There are churches and places of mass gathering. There are churches in that neighborhood that would be affected by this, as well as schools, including the neighbors and the homeowners. That is more than 200,000 people. And so it's business over human bodies. It just seems that 28 homes being notified is not enough, unacceptable. So we need to protect ourselves. We need to move forward. I understand the purpose of the shaving site, however, not this community. And we need to get together, create another meeting, and move forward expeditiously to stop this thing. It's not complete, so it can be stopped. No, it's not in Tanglewild. It's not in River Oak. Justin said because there's no property. But there's property somewhere else where you can build this shaving site other than Southwest Crossing, other than Hillcroft and Orem, other than our neighborhood. You already got one in District K over there. Maybe those people didn't try and stop it. I don't know. I can't speak to that. or what they did, but I can speak to what we need to do now. That's my comment. Thank you.
This is Deanna Purdue Cobb. Excuse me. This is Deanna Purdue Cobb, and I'm in agreement with my neighbor that just spoke. We at Southwest Crossing, we must get this stopped, and we've got to pull together, not tomorrow, but today. So whatever it means, if we have to hold a street meeting in one of the neighborhoods, bring our own chairs, we must get this plan. That's all I have to say. And I'm in agreement, and anybody can reach out to me. I'm at 13619 Misty Bluff Drive. My cell phone number is 713-594-7777. Please call me and we will get this started.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else on the phone line that wants to speak or has a question?
Hello.
Yes, we hear you.
Hi, my name is Sandra Hippolyte, and I am a resident of Southwest Crossing, also living on Misty Bluff Drive, and I am in agreement. We can meet today when this meeting is over.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any more comments on the phone?
Well, yeah, Ms. Tatum, I want to give my number out. This is Daryl Colbert, and please, anybody, will you guys please call me? My number is 713-298-1508. We need to get an attorney. Whatever we need to do, we got to stop this. This is ridiculous.
So Daryl, stand by. Are there any Southwest Crossing, what are they called? The homeowner association people on this call? Any Southwest Crossing homeowner association individuals on this call?
Yes, ma'am.
Because we pay them to protect our interests.
Ma'am,
so let me stop. I think that there so some people have put their phone numbers in the chat. The homeowners association, who's representing the homeowners association on the call? I do want to allow the representatives from Centerpoint to exit the meeting, and then if the residents want to gather together or talk, they can definitely reconvene. Are there any other questions to Centerpoint Energy or to Chief Pena or to the District K office? If the residents want to have a homeowners association meeting, we'll need to reconvene to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any other questions to Centerpoint?
Yes, we definitely want to have a meeting.
I will let our president know. My name is Tammy Cooper. I'm one of the HOA board members. I'll text him and let him know that you all want to have another meeting regarding not having this facility near our neighborhood.
Precisely, because we're not trying to get blown up.
Yes, ma'am. I want also to let the representative of Centerpoint and all the other entities to know that I really appreciate you taking the time. It has been over 2 hours. We're a tough group over here. You've handled yourself very well. Please don't take it personally, but we're passionate about our little neck of the woods over here, if you will. And, you know, we want things to be safe.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat. We have put the contact information to the Railroad Commission in the chat. I think that if there's not anyone else on the phone, I'll ask that one more time. If there's anyone who hasn't spoken before on the phone, this will be the Last time I'll ask, if you're on the phone, if you push *6 to unmute.
Yes.
Yeah, I do have a question. For those of us who want to meet homeowners, is there a website for the community, for the Southwest Crossing newsletter or whatever, or emails you can send out letting us know how we can attend the meeting or start the meeting with the Railroad Commission number and everything else that we want to do?
I'll send that information to Mr. Robert Brown, your president.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Pro Tem, can you read off out loud for those that are on the telephones, the Railroad Commission information, please?
Yeah, hang on 1 second.
All right, guys, this is Kenneth Burgess again. Just one more thing for center point before you leave. There are some you have some pipeline that's in our neighborhood, around in the neighborhood where I ride past on my bike when I'm riding my bike on the bike trail, and I know I can smell gas from some of those lines when I ride by there. Is there any way we can call? Who do we call about checking those lines out just to make sure that we don't have any leaks over there that need to be taken care of?
Where is that, Mr. Burgess?
Yeah, so
there's a line on the bike trail. I think it's close to Orem, Orem and what's the other street? I think Orem and Hiram Clark. But there's a line. I ride past a lot on the bike trail, and I can smell gas over there every time I ride by there.
Are you riding along Hiram Clark?
It's
on that trail?
Yeah, it's in between the bike trail and Orem, close to Hiram Clark. There's a line over there. The next time I go by there, I'm gonna drive by there and find out exactly that location.
Will you send me a message and then I can let our Centerpoint liaison know where you are smelling that?
I will.
Okay. And then the phone number to the Railroad Commission is 512-463-0649. And the email is safetynotice@rrc.texas.gov.
Could you?
I can repeat it. I can repeat it. Safety, SAFETY, notice, NOTICE, reply, REPLY, @rrc.texas.gov. And there's another phone number that says complaints for all three fuels may be reported by phone to 512-463-6462. And that all can be found on the Railroad Commission. I'm sorry?
What person in charge do you address it to?
It doesn't have a specific name, but the chairman of the commissioners is Christy Craddock. And Dee Dee, I don't know if you have the letter in front of you. I don't have the letter in front of me. Does it have an individual name on the letter? Who did I submit my letter to?
Vice Mayor Pro Tem, we submitted that to the director of the Alternative Safeties Operations Division, and that was April Richardson.
So Vice Mayor Pro Tem, if you could kindly, again, get that printed out and get it on our porches, on our doors, we can move a little faster. Thank you.
Okay. Can you make sure that we have your email address for, do you have email? Are you receiving our newsletter?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, if you have any further questions, you feel free to email them to me and I'm happy to forward those over to Justin. And then we can circle back and get those questions answered. Thank you all for participating. If there are no further comments, we will go ahead and close the meeting now. Did somebody?
Can I say one? Hi, this is Cynthia. Can I say one last thing, please?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I'd like the neighborhood to know that the PIP meeting is going to be this coming July 27th, 2021, I'm sorry. And that's where if you want to see Mayor Pro Tem, she'll be at those meetings. She comes to those PIP meetings. After they finish talking about the crime in the neighborhood, then she makes her appearance. So if you guys want to see her, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but the meeting's going to be at 7 o'clock at the police station off of South Post Oak on this coming, I think it's a Tuesday. Bye. Thank you.
Yeah. Council member, if I may, this is Sam Peña. I want to, before finishing the meeting, I just want to thank you, Centerpoint, Chief Meir, Chief Colburn, and Chief Wilson, as well as the community for their engagement. I think this was very productive, and we need to continue these, and we want to be part of this these conversations because it affects every one of us.
Thank you, Chief Peña. Okay, again, if you have any other questions, our email address in the District K office is districtk@houstontx.gov. And our office number is 832-393-3016. All right, thanks so much for being engaged today. And we look forward to circling back and answering any further questions that you may have.
Thank you,
Have a
Vice
good
Mayor,
weekend.
for facilitating this meeting.
Have a good
Thank you.
weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
You see how many people came on that shit? How fewer people got to talk? But imagine if you was down there